Welcome, friends, or perhaps I should say welcome back to all of those who actually joined our session, our special briefing on Tuesday. For those who I have yet to become acquainted with, my name is Sam Robinson, and I'm here representing JReady, the Jewish Agency for Israel's platform for crisis response and community resilience in partnership with the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. So here in Israel, it's day 622 of the Iron Swords War that broke out following the horrific attacks on October 7th, 2023. And now, on top of this, we are a week into Operation Rising Lion, the war which we in Israel are facing against the IRGC, the Iranian regime. As many of you know, here in Israel, we're living through very, very difficult days. The relentless attacks from Iran and its proxies have had really devastating consequences: loss of innocent lives, hundreds wounded, families grieving, and communities completely shattered. But for so many of us, I would say the nights have actually been the hardest. The piercing sounds of sirens racing to the shelters in the middle of the night, trying to comfort terrified children who wake up trembling. Schools are closed, everything's closed, and parents are trying to really hold it together. Many of us are running on very little sleep, so please excuse us if we are slightly less articulate than usual. But know that we are not taking our feet off the gas for 1 second. I think through all of this craziness, we're trying to maintain some semblance of routine. And unlike our briefing on Tuesday, this webinar was actually planned months ago and marks the culmination of a series that we started back in November 2024, focusing on building resilience in the face of rising anti-Semitism. This time, our session is focusing on hope. And it's not lost on us how timely and necessary this conversation is right now. I really love how Professor Bruria Adini, who's one of our speakers today, describes it and talks about how it's not a passive feeling. Hope is an active choice. And it's this defiant belief that tomorrow can be better, even if today is so incredibly hard. Now, there's no person better to exemplify this than our wonderful Ayelet Nahmias Verbin, who's the chair of JReady and the Fund for Victims of Terror at the Jewish Agency, who also happens to be celebrating her birthday today. So please join me in welcoming Ayelet to the mic with a heartfelt Mazal Tov. Ayelet.
Thank you, Sam. I think part of the reason when it was asked if I would want to join the webinar on my birthday, I automatically said yes. We have the incredible Professor Bruria Adini with us, and she would have you know that I feel like I'm a part of the 5% in the world that, according to research, are doing what they love to do. And I feel so privileged that I'm asked by my mother every year, "Are you off today? Are you not working today?" And I always tell her the same thing. I am a privileged person. I love everything that I do. And in that respect, I think it connects us directly to this incredible, incredible hope. In Hebrew, tikva, of course, hatikva, like our anthem. And I feel very, very privileged to open this session, which actually ends a session of webinars that we have started on November 2024. So before anything else, let me thank all of you for being here tonight. It's such an important conversation that we need to have, because most of the conversation that we have surrounding JReady are concerning tools, how to fight anti-Semitism and how to regain resilience and how to become stronger. But never before, if I recall correctly, maybe Yael and Bruria will correct me, I don't think we ever spoke about hope as something that is actually surrounding us, something that is there. I'm hoping all the time that our 53 hostages are back from Gaza. I think that if I had not had that hope, I probably wouldn't have been able to do everything that I do. And in that respect, hope gives me strength. Hope gives me resilience. In the past week, Yael Raz and I, as some of you may know, I'm also the head of the Fund for the Victims of Terror of the Jewish Agency. So in the past week, since this war has started, we found ourselves going around the places where the rockets from Iran, we can't call it rockets anymore. These are huge missiles of a type we never knew before. Unfortunately, I know how missiles look because of my previous engagements in as a member of Knesset and other things. But these are events that are really earth-shattering in the sense that, you know, houses crumbled. Really, they were shredded. And still inside of that, we stood there with the mayors of Israel. We stood there with people who were evacuated, who came out and had to, you know, some of them brushed their dust if they were in the shelter. Thank God they came out fine or almost completely fine. But we also went to see people who were injured in hospitals. And hope is like, it's like written all over their faces. They're wounded. Some of them were not severely wounded. We didn't see the severely wounded, of course, because of their situation, but some of them were quite severely wounded. And still they spoke to us. They communicated with us. They were concerned. They were worried, but they could see towards the future. And that's, you know, in that respect, that really gives us strength, that gives us hope. And I know that many of you as leaders, educators, and caretakers here, of course, in Israel, but also in the Jewish communities who are a complete part of us. You know, that's, by the way, you should know, you are a crucial layer in my own personal hope. Knowing that you are there, knowing that we can work together is something that gives me hope. And you are navigating throughout this complex situation since October 7th, and now with Rising Lion, rising anti-Semitism. How do you deal with all of that? And you're still showing strength and resilience in the face of such uncertainty that's totally not taken for granted. So, as I mentioned, first of all, let me thank our partners. Professor Bruria Adini is our partner in so many things that we do, that you're part of the JReady family. We also have tonight Dr. Shelley Kedar, an incredible partner in the Jewish Agency, and we have Dr. Redlich-Amirav. I'm so happy that you join us for this webinar. But I also want to thank our partners in the Ministry of Diaspora. We've been working closely with the General Director, Avi Cohen-Scally, and of course, thank our partners in JNF, in Kakal. You know, partnering with people in everything that we do also gives us hope. And to wrap up the series of webinars in such a way, I think it's an incredible thing, incredible idea. It was not my idea, so I'm especially glad to say thank you to my incredible team, headed by Yael Raz. On my birthday, I make a point in thanking more and appreciating more the people that I've been privileged to work with in the Jewish Agency and other places. But Yael Raz is a very unique personality. JReady would not be JReady without you. And this is a good time to mention that. We have Shirley Gilrice, who's now the director of JReady. You've done incredible work, especially throughout this week. Sam Robinson, what can I say? Sam Robinson is a brand in Jewish communities around the world, rightfully so. And Gali Ophir, you've done incredible work with these webinars and with everything that we do at JReady. We're so happy that we have been able to work with WZO and have you work with us. Lior Sharir, who's again, unfortunately, in reserve duty, but an incredible support of everything that we do in JReady. So I feel really so privileged to be here tonight with you. Hope is something not passive, it's an active thing. We can decide to be hopeful. I know it's not easy always. When we woke up, when the Iranians were ecstatically happy that I was born, that exactly 12 midnight, they shot missiles over to Israel. Well, I wasn't so hopeful when I woke up because of the siren. But I looked at the babies in the shelter and we played with them. You know, it was the middle of the night and we played with the babies. Incredible, beautiful babies that we've all become to know in our personal shelter, in our house. We don't have a mamad, the safe house, in our apartment, so we go down to the shelter. So you're looking at the faces of my own children, the faces of those babies, the faces of those people, a little bit on alert. Again, it's not an experience that we've ever experienced before. This is something different. But with all of that, just to wrap up for you. I started with the mayors, the incredible mayors of Israel. Just so you understand, yesterday, Yael and I were in Rishon LeZion, and all of a sudden, two mayors came in. One of those mayors is Michal Uziyahu. Michal Uziyahu is the mayor of Eshkol. That's in the Gaza envelope. They came to show support. In a second, October 7th and Rising Lion were connected as one. We are together. We're not in uniformity, we're in unity. And again, if I could hug each and every one of you, just for the mere purpose to say, we will prevail. Just as I started all the webinars on October 7th, we will prevail. Again, we will prevail. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Ayelet. And maybe it's because your birthday, but this concept in Judaism just popped into my mind of Bishvili Nivra Olam, that the world is created for me, you know, in this mindset of not because of like an egocentric thing, but really because of the responsibility we have towards the world. And I think no one that I know represents that concept better than you. Every day you're out there doing whatever you can for this wider world. And we're so blessed that you were born all these years ago. So thank you for being here, and Mazal Tov
5
once
years.
again.
We're celebrating 5 years now, my love.
5 years. Okay. I'll
5
keep
years.
that in mind.
5 years. Hamsa. Hamsa.
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you too.
So why is it that communities bounce back stronger while others struggle to recover? This was part of the tagline that we had sent out with this webinar. And in today's webinar, Harnessing Hope, we are honored to bring you three phenomenal, and world-renowned experts who happen to also be very dear friends of ours. Professor Bruria Adini is the head of emergency and disaster management at Tel Aviv University. For over 25 years, Professor Adini has intermittently served as senior consultant for the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the World Health Organization to promote emergency preparedness of health systems. Her research explores various facets of risk perceptions, resilience, capacity evaluation, and humanitarian aid. We also have with us Dr. Dorit Redlich-Amirav, who is an occupational therapist and a researcher specializing in hope and mental health in education and health settings. She gained her PhD from the University of Alberta, Canada, studying hope in mothers of adults with mental illnesses in Jerusalem. She teaches hope-centered approaches at the Stanley School of Health Professions, Tel Aviv University, Levinsky Wingate Academic Center, and Honor Academic College. She also directs Israel's Hope Index project in global collaboration. And our phenomenal colleague at the Jewish Agency, Dr. Shelley Kedar, who is the director of Connecting the Jewish People unit at the Jewish Agency for Israel. Shelley's work and Shelley's unit focuses on 4 key strategies in which she holds unique competitive advantage: partnerships, immersive experiences, peoplehood and pluralism, and working with emissaries, the deployment of shlichim all over the world to communities everywhere. Now, Shelley herself has a very impressive history within the Jewish Agency and also holds roles with many prestigious academic institutions, and in parallel to everything else is pursuing a doctorate in Jewish education at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. Now, before we get started with our panel of speakers, we wanted to bring you a little interactive task. So I'm going to share my screen and you will see, here we go. You should see the Menti. You can scan the QR code with your phones. You can access it via menti.com and use the access code. Okay, I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to all access it, and then we will get started with the first question. Okay, I hope you're all managing to get in. Everyone, all the panelists, you see this on the screen, right? Nod your heads. Okay, great. All right, here we go. So our first question is, in one word, what does hope mean to you? And I see some people have already answered. And you can also, if you haven't managed to get in yet, the QR code is still there, so you can still access it. Here we go. The larger the word, the more people have responded with that same word. Yes, sir. Tikva, safe, positivity. Keep it coming, folks. Beautiful. I love that Israel is the center of that hope for some of you. Resiliency, absolutely. Give it another half a minute. You can still scan that QR code and access. Positivity, that's definitely something we try to hold on to through all of this. Okay, see a few more coming in. Okay, great. We are going to move on to the second question, knowing that we have people here joining us from really all across the world. We would love for you to write, what is hope in your native language? We can create a beautiful word cloud that says hope in all of your different native languages. Here we go. Fantastic. We have English speakers, Hebrew speakers, Spanish speakers. Here we go, people from all over. Beautiful. Okay, these are really great responses. I'm going to stop the share screen now and we're going to move over to the next part. Okay, thank you guys for participating. Now, given that there are so many of you joining us from all over the globe, we love you to keep writing those messages in and translating hope into your native languages. It's still going to show up on my screen and we can share with you later on. I will say at this point, at any moment during the webinar, you're very welcome to write in the chat. I know that you can't all see each other, but we can definitely see your messages. And we will try to address some of your comments live during the session. I also just want to say that given the current situation in Israel, we appreciate your patience. If a siren should sound while we're in the middle of this conversation, we may have family members jumping on us during the conversation. We may need to run to safe rooms. So your patience is very much appreciated during this time. Okay, Shelley, over to you.
Yeah, hello. So again, I'm also joining the apologies for all the things that we need. Oh, and Sam has disappeared. All the things that we may need to, to take care of this afternoon. What I would love is that we could show the Mentimeter for a minute again, just so we can relate to it. Can we show it again? Fantastic. Okay. In terms of hope, so people have written, what is hope in their language, and such a beautiful expression for the meaning of hope. I'm specifically intrigued by the languages that I do recognize, like Esperanza, hope as some sort of a spirit. Also very, very interesting, to see what hopes mean to people. And majority of you think that hope is future and life and Israel and safe. So I think if we can all agree, that would be fantastic right at this moment. There's no clearer definition for hope than what we've seen. So I'm really very, very pleased to begin this conversation, particularly with my colleagues. Can we invite them back?
Yes.
So Dorit, please.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, thank you. Just a minute. Okay. Let's see if you see everything. Wow. Do you see?
Yes, we do. Great.
Excellent. So thank you, Shelley, for this kind introduction, and hello, everyone. I would like to start with what hope is not about everything turning out okay. It's about being okay no matter how things turn out. It is, and as you saw in the definitions that you started, it's absolutely fantastic to see that there is no one definition for hope. So in the next few minutes, I will share a way to understand hope as a deep emotional network and provide simple tools to help us nurture hope in ourselves and our communities. Hope isn't just something we feel in extreme moments. It's something we can practice and nurture in our daily lives. Anthony Scioli, a leading hope researcher, describes hope as an emotional network with 4 main channels. Each one offers us a different way to reconnect with hope, especially when life feels uncertain or overwhelming. Let's explore these 4 simple human pathways. Scioli describes 4 channels of hope: mastery, hope through action and achievement; attachment, hope through trust and connection; survival, hope through resilience and coping; and spirituality, hope through meaning and transcendence. For each channel, I will share 1 or 2 simple tools we can use in daily life to strengthen our hope. So hope through doing an achievement. When I do something I'm good at, I feel hopeful. Hope grows when we feel capable. Remember that hope is individual, so hope is something different for each of us. For example, for me, baking cookies and smelling the sweetness fills not only my home, but also my heart with hope. It could also be through drinking a cup of coffee, watering a plant and watching it grow, or walking around the block. These actions remind us I can still create, move, and make a difference, which increases my hope. Please think of what's 1 small thing you did today that made you feel more hopeful. The second channel is attachment, hope through connection and comfort. So being with others, we all know that brings hope to life. Hope lives in the spaces where we feel safe and cared for. For example, holding a smooth rock in your hand, hugging a child, a friend, or even a beloved pet, sitting beside someone and just being quiet together. So please think of who or what helps you feel safe, held, or less alone. Sometimes it's not about what we say. Just being together can restore our hope. Survival is the third channel, hope through calming the body. So when I take a breath, when I rest, hope returns. Hope lives in our bodies as much as in our minds. When we slow down, we make space for hope to re-enter. And what I mean is some examples: hugging yourself with 2 hands, or another example, 1 hand
Hi,
on your
Rich. This
chest
is Shelley from the Jewish Agency.
and the other on your
I'm
stomach.
sorry that I couldn't respond a minute ago.
And
It's a little
breath. Please think of what does your body need right now to feel supported. Even the smallest act of care for our body reminds us, I'm still here, I can choose peace. The last channel of hope is spirituality. Hope through meaning and connection to something bigger than ourselves. When I feel part of something greater, I know I'm not alone. And here are some examples for that. Saying a quiet prayer, lighting a candle in memory, helping someone else, even in a small way, or looking at a golden hour of the soul, a quiet moment where light, meaning, and wonder gently meet. Please think of what gives you life meaning, even when things feel difficult. So you see, hope deepens when we remember that we are part of something larger, something that holds us through the unknown. Thank you.
I'd like to continue the thoughts that Dorit actually shared with us. She talked about what are the components of the hope and how we can actually achieve hope during adversities. And what I would like to share with you is what we have learned from the different studies that we conducted during varied adversity. I will show you what we have found both during wars, not only the war in Israel. Unfortunately, human-made adversities are something that occur in different places in the world. But I will also share with you something that is derived from nature, like the COVID-19. So I will relate to specifically to hope, but also how hope impacts resilience, which is Ayelet's concept that she mentioned in the beginning of this webinar. So first, let me show you what we found when we looked into the element of both hope and distress during the war between Ukraine and Russia. Now, of course, the direct hit was on the Ukrainian society because the invasion of Russia was into Ukraine. But other European countries were also impacted because of the huge refugee surge from Ukraine to the countries, because they were concerned that maybe they will be the next in line, economic elements, energy infrastructure damage, because you remember that Russia actually threatened Europe with different types of measure if they in any way intervene. So what does the data show us? What we found is that very expectedly, we saw that the levels of distress in Ukraine was higher than in the different European countries, not much higher in some countries. For example, you can see Ukraine versus Georgia. Georgia is also very close to the region and very concerned that Russia may actually also attack them. But when we look at hope, despite the fact that the level of distress was highest in Ukraine, the level of hope was also the highest in Ukraine, much higher than the other countries. And this relates directly to what Dorit said just a few minutes ago. We can be in a very challenging situation, but what holds us is our belief that even though we are right now in a very dire situation, we believe that our future will be better. And this is something that here you can see from the data how it was actually expressed and presented during this conflict. But it's not the only one. Let's look at what we could find from, just 1 minute, from the Iron Sword War that Israel has been involved in since the October 7, 2023 attack. We actually measured hope as well as other variables throughout the conflict. Every 2-3 months, we measured what is happening and what are the perceptions of the Israeli community. So you can see the morale. Morale is my mood at the present time. We can see we started in October 23, and as you see, we actually measured it consecutively. We also measured it this week after the attack on Iran and the retaliation of Iran against Israel. And we could even see that the trajectory continues. So the morale started low, but starts being higher. The societal cohesion, which is our society integral relationship, started high, but somewhat declined throughout these 18 months. But the hope, we can see that remained more or less at the same level. We see some minor declines and some increase towards December. And now this week, when we measure it again, it actually climbed even more. The hope not only remained static as we see throughout the war, even rose, because that's something that the existential threat actually made us be more cohesive to each other, more hopeful that our future will be better despite the struggling that we're in its midst. Now, I want to intersect with another concept, which is resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is actually our ability, our capacity to function during the challenging period and even recover successfully afterwards. We used to talk a decade ago about bouncing back to the pre-crisis level. And now in the last decade, we're actually talking about bouncing forward, being empowered, even strengthening despite the adversity or even because of the adversity, because we recruit all our resources in order to actually make our future better. And this level of resilience We can see it on an individual, on a community, and on a societal level. Now, why is it so important? It's important. I'm sorry that there's a bit of noise, but my grandchildren are here because of the situation. So for their safety, this is something that we live with, and gladly so. Why is the resilience so important? It's important because it enables us to function, and it also serves as a protective measure against the distress, which very, very normally we feel when we're in such a situation. But it's also very important because resilience, and this is all from studies, have shown us that it enables us to trust our authorities and to actually comply. When they tell us, for example, go now to the shelter and don't go out after 10 minutes, but stay there until we tell you otherwise, only if we believe them, then we adhere to the guidelines. So this is why the resilience is so important. And now I want to show you the relationship between hope, which is what we're focusing on now, and resilience and our ability to cope throughout the war. So look what we found. When we looked at two different adversities, we looked at the COVID-19 and we looked at an armed conflict. And I don't want to take you too much into the science. What I want to present, which is the important element, is that we have shown that throughout the different adversities, both in the pandemic and in the armed conflict, hope as a variable, as I've said, our belief that the future is going to be better, that we have something that we can expect positively, hope had become, or we have shown that it's the most important predictor, the element that explains the resilience, both on an individual level and on our societal level, our ability to function as a society, as well as other things such as our perceived well-being. The hope enables us to hold all of these in a higher and more positive element. But it also does the same in an opposite way concerning a negative coping mechanism. When we maintain the hope, it's negatively related to anxiety and depression, which means that if we have the hope, we have lower levels of anxiety and lower level of depression, both in the COVID and in the armed conflict. And again, I want to show you that it's not only here in Israel. We studied the same thing in the Ukrainian-Russian war. We looked at different variables to see what best predicts the individual, the community, and the societal resilience. And we found that hope was the strengthened and most impactful variable that actually explains our capacity to function during adversities. So to sum up, the main message is, if we're able to help ourselves, our family members, our neighbors, our society to maintain the hope, that is a very important step toward being able to cope with any adversity which we may have to face. I want to thank you very much and add just one thing that I think all of us pray every day, also during this crisis with Iran and other neighbors. We want to remember our 53 hostages, and we want to hope that they will come home very, very, very quickly, and as many as possible come back alive. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, Bruria, and also Dorit, for your presentations. And I love that we're getting hearts in webinar. It's fantastic. So I wonder if we can also have Dorit come back as spotlight to this. Oh, wonderful. Okay. So thank you so much for presenting this data. And as people have asked also, if you could maybe later share the slides and for people to use this. Mm-hmm. I want to ask both of you, just to get us started, if you, as far as your professional knowledge goes, do you believe that hope is something that you are born with, or can we acquire hope? And I will give this by means of example. There's a joke, Jewishly, as you know, that some of us Jews like to be pessimistic and cynical etc., which might hint to the fact that we are not hopeful people, and yet our national anthem, Od lo avda tikvatenu. So is hope something, is it nature or nurture? And I would love for either of you to respond first. Maybe Dorit, can you respond
Yes,
first to this?
maybe I'll
Thank you.
start. Thank you so much for this question, Shelley. So it's a good question because even scholars are thinking about these if we were born with or is it learned. So actually, it's both. Hope is an integral.
That's a very Jewish answer.
Yeah. So hope is an integral part of our human nature, but it can also be learned. So it's inherent as a human being. Some may have a hopeful temperament, but anyone can grow in hope, especially through connection, reflection, and small successes. I can give an example. A Holocaust survivor speaks to high school students, and he shares how he once had no hope. But kindness from others, like someone sharing bread, helped him to rebuild trust in life. Because sometimes one definition of hope is just to say yes to life. And over the years, he learned to carry and teach hope. So it's both, actually.
Okay.
Bruria,
are you going to agree with your esteemed colleague?
Well, listen, when someone tells me that it's based on research, I very much believe in research. But I have to say that from my experience through our studies, I very much believe that hope is something that we can build. We can influence the level of hope. I don't think hope and optimism are the same concepts. The same way I don't think that hope and pessimism are contrasting. You can be optimistic, you can be pessimistic, some would say you can be realistic, and so on. Hope, we have seen, is very much connected to elements that are intrinsic to our life, our community support, our belief in our authorities, our ability to communicate with others. All of these elements are actions that you can impact on, you can influence. So if, for example, an authority during an adversity tells us, oh, it'll be okay, does that build hope? No. But if they talk to us rationally, we have seen that people in adversities are not panicky, are not irrational. They have a lot of wisdom. We don't have for nothing, the term wisdom of the crowd. Our crowds here in Israel and in other societies have a lot of wisdom and a lot of understanding. If we give them the information, if we talk to them transparently, if we let them use their cognition, it will influence how they act and their levels of hope. So for me, hope is not a concept that you either have it or you don't. Hope is a lot of responsibility on all of us as citizens, as authorities, as societies. And yes, we all can contribute to the hope of others.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So the message that we are responsible to not only hold hope, but also to spread hope.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I hope that I personally can hold that. I don't know. But yeah, thank you. Very, very serious things for us to think about. There's a question in the chat that I thought would be good, even though we didn't plan for it, from Susan Shapiro that asks, what role does political view play in hope? Are people who are opposed, a certain political regime less hopeful, more hopeful? And I think it's an interesting question because even here in Israel, it doesn't matter who's in power. The other side always seems to be hopeful in using the language of hope. So what role does political view do you think has in hope? And institutions and government to develop culture of hope? Thank you, Shana, for your question as well.
I would be very happy again to respond to this through the research. We actually asked in all of our studies throughout the COVID and throughout the war and so on about the support or opposing the government. And we've seen a diverse variability between those that support the government and believe the government and those that oppose the government and disbelieve the government. So there's no doubt, the science shows that there is a difference, but again, you're being an opposer to the government, either as a whole or to the decisions and actions of the government, does not mean that you're not hopeful, but you may put your hope in other things. It will impact on your resilience. It will impact on your capacity to follow what the leadership is telling you. And you might be more susceptible to other types of leadership. For example, I think Israel society right now, we all know, has entered this war with a huge rift, okay, between almost, two
Every aspect of Israeli life, I think. Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of rifts.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't mean that those that oppose have much lower levels of hope. It means that they put their hope in other things. For example, in their belief that the government will change, okay? And they look into different types of leadership to find solace, or they believe, for example, as we see, and we see cross-cut across the Israeli society, they have a great belief in the army and in the security forces, despite what happened on October 7th. Even before this, phenomenal views that we're seeing in the last week, what Israel and the security forces have been doing in Iran.
Yeah, are capable of. Thank you. Dorit, do you want to relate to that? Or I can go ahead.
Yes, I thank you so much, Bruria. And I think you're putting the spot on hope as a moving entity, which it's not something that you have it or not. It's something that moves, so you can hope for this and don't hope for something else. And I would like also to share that the difference between hope and optimism is in three ways. There are differences. First of all, optimism is something very passive, and hope is very active. You can be active for something different from each other, but still. And it's very and optimism, it's not significant to the person, but hope must be very, very essential. If it's not important to the person, he's not hopeful for that. He doesn't have any hope. And the third one, maybe is the most important one, is that optimism emerge in certainties, and hope comes up when there is uncertainty. Because if you are certain, you can be optimistic that something will happen. But if there is uncertainty, then you need hope, because there is where hope comes in. Thank you.
So Lynn wrote in the chat, I don't know if you can see it, that of course there's a danger for hope. An example, World War II, Jews in Europe believing things would get better. And I think that's something that you said, both Dorit and Bruria, about the difference between optimism or naivety, being naive and being hopeful, which I believe you're sort of moving us towards something that's more active and something that we need to own. Wow, there's a question about brain chemistry, which I'm tempted to take, but my apologies to the anonymous attendee. I'm actually going to stick to my questions. And if you want to relate to brain chemistry and hope, if you have anything to say about that. But I do want to move us for a minute to the global context of anti-Semitism and ask you, how can hope be used or be useful when we're trying to face and deal with anti-Semitism? And specifically because of Lynn's questions about World War II, right? When we don't want to impart naivety or false optimism, how can hope be useful when we're trying to deal with anti-Semitism today? And maybe, Dorit, would you like to begin? Yes, thank you.
I'll try to take it. So anti-Semitism strikes at the core of identity and belonging and dignity. That's why hope becomes essential, not as wishful thinking or false optimism, but as a force that helps us resist despair, reclaim meaning, and stay connected. Hope allows us to keep showing up with courage, clarity, and care, even when the world feels hostile. And I can give a very small example of a woman in work. So after hearing anti-Semitic remarks at work, a woman doesn't speak up immediately, and show up with some feelings of hardness. But later, she invites a colleague for coffee and share, calmly, how those words affected her. That simple conversation opens understanding, and her hope was not loud. It was the decision to stay open, to stay human and connected, even in pain. Yes, I think one thing in hope that we can see in the literature, that hope holds the pain and open possibilities. So it's something that moves between and within things.
I would like to take us again to the connectivity or the relationship between hope and resilience. Hope doesn't mean that we go with a false belief or a belief that blinds us to the reality. Hope means that we believe that there could be a better future, but we are responsible. We are part of the element that has to ensure that the future is better. Now, what can we do? And how is that related to anti-Semitism? It has to keep us on our toes, trying to think what our future holds for us and how we can actually change it. Are we able to change in any way what is happening within the society? For example, you can see in some of the campuses in the United States, some of the Jewish professors or the Jewish students that wanted to speak up, that said, we want to be heard. We want to try to change the policies of the administrations, or we want to have our voice heard. That's one type of behavior or actions. And others, which, for example, if we go back to the question on World War II, some of them were resilient by deciding that here it's a lost case, we have to get up and move to another place. And they left and saved their lives, okay? It's not that every situation we can cope by trying to change the minds of others. It may work in some situations, it may not work in other situations. That's the resilience. Resilience is coping, it's adjusting to the situation. There's not, one answer that we know for certainty that that's the correct answer. We don't. Crisis is always a period of uncertainty, but the ability to actually, try to recruit all our resources, our cognition, our thinking, our perceptions, our human beings around us, that we can think together and act together, that helps us to take the right course. And, hopefully we choose those mechanisms that actually prove to be successful. World War II proved that not all people did that. And of course, there are terrible tragedies. We see it today too in a large scope. But again, it's anti-Semitism. It's not something that is static and that we're just, the ones that are being persecuted. We also have a say. We can do things to try to change it, to try to have people understand, or there can come a point of time that we say, you know what, I don't want to be in this atmosphere, in this surrounding. I'm taking myself, my family, and so on, and I'm moving to another campus, or I'm moving to another society or another neighborhood. And both are fine. Just we shouldn't close our eyes. We shouldn't believe that something, you know, even believers, it's not just the divine forces will help us. We also have a responsibility in that. You're mute.
I was muted. It has been written that הכל נתון והרשות, הכל רשום והרשות נתונה. Like everything is written, but we have the permission to actually enact on our own lives. And I love how both of you speak about two things. One is that hope is very much a personal labor. So each one of us has to personally work themselves in their hopeful selves. And second, the dynamics of it. I think, Bruria, you spoke about the dynamics of specifically anti-Semitism. But I think if we think now, all of us sitting in Israel in this situation of war, one of the things that we constantly tell our children is this is not always going to be this way. So we are now at war, but this is not our lives now forever and ever. You know, this period shall also end. And that's something that's always a little bit more difficult to think about, you know, when we have hard periods of time. So I know that you related to this a little bit, but you've told us a lot about what we need to do to, you know, to gather our hope and to work hope. So as a final question, I want to ask you, is there any time or any case, and you can say no, and that would be the end of the answer, that a conversation around hope or gathering hope is not relevant or not useful? Is there any time that we shouldn't be speaking about hope at all?
This is a hard question, I have to say. But actually, there are some places that talking about hope to someone is hard. So when someone is in deep grief, trauma, or fear, hope talk can feel dismissive or too soon to talk about it. In those moments, presence matters more than perspective. So being together and listening is the first act of hope, but it's not about talking about the future. So I have also an example that after a violent attack on a synagogue, a woman says that she feels only despair. And the rabbi doesn't try to cheer her up. He just sits with her. And later, they together light a candle in silence. And that small shared act becomes the first flicker of renewed hope.
I think that's a beautiful answer, and I would agree. For me, you know, if we cannot believe in hope, that's the end of life.
Wow.
In any situation, you know, in any situation. I'm a second generation of Holocaust survivors. If my parents had lost hope, I wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be able to resurrect their own humanity and so on. And the same thing I felt, you know, in October 7th, which for us as Israeli was, I think all of us were so horrified and so devastated and so on. But if we had no hope, the same, you know, my best example, and I don't know if everyone that is here with us knows him, but Eli Sharabi,
Yes.
a hostage that came back after so many days, over 500 days in captivity, and he came back home to find out, and he said, okay, now I want to see my wife and 2 daughters, because that's what kept me alive when I was a hostage. And then at that moment, he found out that his wife and 2 daughters were murdered on October 7th. And now we see him all over the world speaking about what we need to do in order to continue the life in Israel and maintain our Jewish heritage in our society. And that can only be done if you have hope that
Yes.
there's life still holds something for us.
Yes.
Only when we give up completely, we have no hope, no belief that something could be better. That's when the flicker goes out.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
all have a responsibility to make sure that we can help others as much as we can, not
sometimes
to
it
get to
doesn't
that point.
only relate to reality. If you spoke about Sharabi, the Eli Sharabi, that he didn't know the reality. about his daughters and his wife.
Fun.
And it was not what was very important. What was important that what gives him hope at that time. And so thank you. It's a good question. It's a good answer.
Toda. So I'm trying to summarize this conversation without using the term hope and hopeful too much. But at least one of the roots for the word hope in Hebrew is water, kaveh. And water is something that is so essential, so natural, so simple, and so necessary. And I think, Bruria, I have to hold on to your words. When we don't have water, really, we're in a very difficult situation, and we always go and seek water. As we're reading about the children of Israel in the desert right now, the different parashot, the issue of water is a big deal before any other issue. So I want to really thank you for giving us inspiration as well as knowledge on this notion of hope, and also for empowering us. Julie wrote here in the chat that she loves about how this is about personal power. And so really for empowering us and reminding us that it is in our hands. And to thank JReady for this webinar. I don't think we need to thank our enemies for not disrupting this particular webinar, but it was nice to sit for a whole hour and not be disrupted. And I want to return I think the broadcast to Samantha for closing. Toda.
Wow, thank you so much. That was, I don't know, I found it personally very invigorating. I don't know about the rest of you, but I really needed that right now. And I want to say a huge thanks to our incredible speakers, Professor Bruria Adini, Dr. Dorit Redlich-Amirav, and Shelley Kedar, Dr. Shelley Kedar. I know from the inside how much Shelley is personally dealing with right now in this emergency situation on behalf of the Jewish Agency. So another huge note of thanks to you for taking the time and being here with us. It's really not taken for granted. You guys are truly remarkable, each and every one of you, and thank you for bringing us this powerful, as Julie said, powerful message and lesson in hope. I also want to take a moment to pay tribute to our fabulous JReady team. Ayelet mentioned everyone before, but also thanks again to Ayelet Nahmias Verbin, our chair, to Yael Raz, to Shirley, to Lior, who again is in Miluim, in reserve duty for the Home Front Command and keeping us all updated and safe. And also to Gali Ophir, who really was the one that curated this whole series of webinars so expertly. Thank you. This was such a beautiful way to sum up the series that started all the way back in November. And I would also be remiss if I wasn't to also thank our wonderful Moshe Adiri, who really works his magic behind the scenes with all the logistical elements of all of these webinars. And he remains in the office ridiculous unsociable hours in order to make things run smoothly. So thank you also to Moshe Adiri. And most of all, thanks to all of you. I think the number of people who have joined us here today and join us on each of these sessions is an indicator that we are providing you with content that is worthwhile and hopefully giving you tools and resources to build your resilience. We, of course, welcome you to access the additional resources that we have on the JReady platform, jready.org, and follow us on social media to get further updates and be informed of future webinars, seminars, workshops, and more. We also would welcome you to reach out to us and share additional requests and recommendations, any other type of content that you may be interested in for you, for your communities, additional trainings we are here to provide. So please write to us at jready@jaffe.org. And guys, we really do feel the support from our friends, from our partners all around the world. Your messages, your prayers, your solidarity, they really do remind us that even through these very, very trying times, that we are not alone, and they do give us a lot of hope. So thank you, and Am Yisrael Chai.